The man immortalized in history as Caesar Augustus was born on the 23rd of September 63 BC on the Palatine Hill. Augustus was born Gaius Octavius Thurinus. Octavian was adopted by his great-uncle Julius Caesar in 44 BC and then took the name Gaius Julius Caesar. In 27 BC, the Senate awarded him the honorific Augustus, the illustrious one, and he was then known as Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus. Owing to the many names the man went by in his life, it is common to call him Octavius when referring to events between 63 and 44 BC, Octavian when referring to events between 44 and 27 BC, and Augustus regarding events from 27 BC to his death in 14 CE. It should be noted, however, that Octavian himself, between the years 44 and 27 BC, never went by that name, choosing instead to align himself closely with his great-uncle by carrying the same name, a decision which prompted Mark Antony's famous accusation, as recorded by Cicero, "You, boy, owe everything to your name." After Julius Caesar's assassination in March of 44 BC, Octavian allied himself with Caesar's close friend and relative, Mark Antony. Together with another supporter of Caesar, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, Antony and Octavian formed the Second Triumvirate in October of 43 BC. Their first order of business seems to have been the systematic killing of any political rivals and supporters of Caesar's assassins. Exactly which of the three was most responsible for the killings is disputed by ancient and modern writers alike, with some claiming Octavian innocent and others ascribing to him the most bloodshed. Having cleansed Rome of the bad blood of their opposition, the Second Triumvirate then turned their attention to Caesar's assassins. At the Battle of Philippi in October 42 BC, the forces of Brutus and Cassius were defeated by those of the Second Triumvirate, forcing both assassins to kill themselves. Between 38 and 36 BC, Octavian and Lepidus battled Sextus Pompeius, son of Pompey Magnus, Julius Caesar's great rival, for rule of Rome, with Antony lending aid from Egypt. The Second Triumvirate was victorious over Pompeius, and Lepidus, glorying in the triumph and confident of his strength, insulted Octavian by ordering him to leave Sicily, the theatre of operations, with his troops. Octavian, however, offered Lepidus's troops more money than Lepidus could pay, and his army defected to Octavian. Lepidus was stripped of all his titles, save Pontifex Maximus, and the Second Triumvirate came to an end. During this time, however, relations between Octavian and Mark Antony began to deteriorate. In 40 BC, to solidify their alliance, Octavian had given his sister, Octavia Minor, in marriage to Antony. Antony, though, had allied himself closely with Cleopatra of Egypt and had become her lover. Octavian charged that Antony had misused his sister when Antony divorced Octavia in favor of Cleopatra in 33 BC, which prompted Antony to write Octavian, "What's upset you? Because I go to bed with Cleopatra. But she's my wife, and I've been doing so for 9 years, not just recently. Does it matter where or with what women you get your excitement?" To Octavian, Antony's behavior in the East, both in private, politically, and militarily, was intolerable. He forced the priestesses of the Temple of Vesta in Rome to surrender Antony's will and had it read in the Roman Senate. The will gave away Roman territories to Antony's sons and contained directions for a great mausoleum to be built in Alexandria for Antony and Cleopatra, among other stipulations which Octavian felt threatened the grandeur of Rome and branded Antony a renegade. Among the worst of Antony's offenses was his declaration that Caesarion was the true heir of Julius Caesar, not Octavian. The Senate revoked Antony's consulship and declared war on Cleopatra. At the Battle of Actium on 2 September 31 BC, Octavian's forces, under the general Marcus Agrippa, defeated the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra, scattered them, and pursued the survivors until 1 August 30 BC, when, after the loss of Alexandria, Antony and Cleopatra killed themselves. Octavian had Caesarion strangled and Antony's eldest son executed as a possible threat to Rome. Octavian was now the supreme ruler of Rome and all its territories, but, to keep from making the same mistake his adoptive father had of seeming to covet power, Octavian was careful to characterize all of his political stratagems as being for the good of the Roman Republic. In January of 27 BC, Octavian resigned his powers humbly, only to receive them back from the grateful Senate, who also bestowed upon him the title Augustus. Octavian was careful not to refer to himself by that title at any time in public, simply calling himself princeps, or first citizen. So carefully did Octavian play the political game in Rome that his claims to the restoration of the Republic seemed in earnest, even when he gained supreme power, giving him absolute control over Rome and its colonies. Popular already with the soldiers of his army, the title Augustus solidified his power in the provinces as imperator or commander-in-chief. The month of August was named in his honor. In the year 19th BC, he was given imperium maius over every province in the Roman Empire, and from that time on, Augustus Caesar ruled supremely, the first emperor of Rome, and the measure by which all later emperors would be judged. By 2nd BC, Augustus was declared Pater Patriae, the father of his country. The era of Augustus's reign was a golden age in every respect. The peace that Augustus restored and kept, the Pax Romana, caused the economy, the arts, and agriculture to flourish. An ambitious building program was initiated in which Augustus completed the plans made by Julius Caesar and then continued with his own grand designs. In his famous inscription, Res Gestae Divi Augusti, he claims to have restored or built 82 temples in 1 year. The famous public Roman baths were constructed under Augustus by his second-in-command Agrippa, and the poet Virgil composed his epic, the Aeneid. Augustus took great personal concern for the arts and was a personal patron of many artists. He passed many sweeping reforms, as well as laws to maintain stability in marriage and to raise the birth rate in Rome, making adultery illegal, offering tax incentives to families with over 3 children, and penalties for childless marriages. So strictly did Augustus himself adhere to his laws that he banished his own daughter, Julia, and his granddaughter for adultery. Augustus died at Nola in 14. His official last words were, "I found Rome a city of clay, but left it a city of marble," which aptly describes Augustus's achievements during his reign as emperor. Augustus's body was brought back to Rome, and on the day of the funeral, all businesses in Rome closed out of respect for the emperor. He was succeeded by Tiberius, who he had adopted in 4 and who read the eulogy at Augustus's famously grand funeral. The emperor's body was cremated, and his ashes were interred in his mausoleum. Augustus's death was mourned as the loss of a great ruler of immense talent and vision, and he was proclaimed a god among the hosts of the Roman pantheon.